This is Nick Vivian. We're here live in Berlin at the tnoooz studio. This is the final interview of the whole ITB for me, at least. So I thank you for making it through the entire interview series. If you're watching on YouTube, there'll be more clips to come. This edition has been presented by Travelaer. And right now I'm sitting with the moderator of the eTravel Startup Day, Axel. Is it Jockwer?
Jockwer?
Jockwer.
In German,
I have to get
Jockwer.
Thank you for joining me. I know it's been a long day for you.
Thanks for inviting me.
You just came off stage, right?
Yes.
You
just finished today.
How was it? Was the role good? Did you get to know some new startups?
Yeah, it was really an amazing day. It was a kind of a journey all over the world. So we started somewhere in China, and then went through France and Spain, and back to the US, back to Berlin again. So it was very international, very inspiring. And one thing really came out as the main key takeout: innovation comes from everywhere, and even the startups are ignoring it because they are not really networking with each other. And this was a brilliant opportunity to get in touch with Spanish startups, with France startups from France or from Italy or from China, and because they all are working on almost the same problems, but they don't get in touch so much. Of course, most of the startups, they have clients from all over the world and they think global, but they do not interact global. So it was a nice way to take a look at the startup scene worldwide.
And maybe get out for them and just look around. It's hard sometimes when you're building something, to remember.
Of course, and I was quite happy to have the chance to start the day with a topic that is not very common if you are dealing with travel technology and with scaling up economic figures and so on. I was just trying to give examples how to grow up, how to grow. Now, this is the difference. I think it's quite special in English, because if you say to grow, it means to scale, to get bigger, to get more powerful. And if you say grow up, it means becoming an adult,
like something's
coming
done.
of age.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So getting old sometimes also means getting boring, getting slow, and this is something that really happens to a lot of startups. So they started as a powerful, young, foolish, stay young, stay foolish team, and then suddenly they experience a lot of different problems, and those problems are almost the same as if a human being gets of age. So he's becoming of age. That's what you say, right? So and if you're young and your father says, "Come on, take care of drinking too much beer," because if you drink too much beer, we'll have a bad hangover, a bad headache. Then you know what will happen. And I think it's very important to teach a startup to know what happens if you ignore a certain problem. So take a problem, take a deep look at a problem. So, there are a lot of problems, so we can talk about that later, and take the problem seriously. But because a problem never is so small, be at that moment in time when you recognize it to be a problem. No, and there I've had a lot of experience in scaling different startups from 3 people up to 300 people or 400 people, and I worked in a lot of different sized companies, so from very, very small companies up to very, very big companies, and so I collected kind of all the problems that can happen, and they don't can happen. They happen. Really, it's fantastic. It's really a kind of a pattern that you can see, because it's always at a different point, and this point is connected with the headcount. So how many people are working with the company? So I had a headcount of 3, 7, 18, 40, 80, and then it goes on. And you have almost the same kind of problem. This is not a question of industry you're working in. It's not a question of nationality of the people you're working with. It's always the same problem at the same size of a company. So,
what's the good one? Yeah, what's example that you see?
Let's take a look at the topic of strategy. So If you're a small company, just 3-4 people, you don't really need a strategy. Your strategy is just keep it going, get stronger, get more powerful. But if you don't decide for a strategy, people keep asking. If you grow up, the topic of strategy and of big picture and of taking focus and so on will get bigger and bigger and bigger. And same with communication. At the beginning of a startup, it's always easy to communicate because you're sitting together all day long, having a beer together, having lunch together, having dinner together, and everybody knows everything. But from that moment on that you are recruiting people and you're growing in terms of headcount, then the first problems in communication will arrive and will say, oh, I didn't know that. What's happening there? The first rumors will be around the corner, and then it's getting a big problem. Because if the company grows and you have a problem in terms of communication, then this problem will get bigger and it will get huge, and maybe it will smash up your company. A little bit the same when it comes to HR. At the beginning, it's we need someone cheap. We do our recruiting in our network, just people who I know, and you're trying to build jobs around people. So this is a good guy. I try to find something that he can work in, and if you grow up, if you really scale, if you try to scale this, you exactly have to define what kind of skill set should someone bring with him, and what kind of things should he really then work on. And the HR part in most of the companies I was working with was completely ignored until there were around 18 people.
When it's almost too late sometimes,
it's too late because there are so many problems. Then people are talking about, I want this title, I want that title, I want more money, what is he doing? And then things about leadership will suddenly arise, like you're losing a good founder must not be a good leader. That's first of all. And a good worker must not be a good leader too, but this is the typical way of promoting people in a startup, that the first coder will be CTO. Maybe you're losing a good coder, and what you get is a bad boss, so a bad leader. And those are some of the problems I was just talking about.
Is it possible to avoid them, or is it kind of just you have to kind of understand it's a problem and work through it, or if you can't hire a CTO?
You cannot avoid those problems completely. That's the same with someone who's the same with a beer story. You will drink beer. No matter what your father said, you will drink beer, you will try it, but you know how to deal with it. And if you recognize a problem, then it's staying small. And this is the main solution. So be aware that there will be a problem, be more sensitive to feel the problem, and there are a lot of fixes on that stuff, on that pains, and establish kind of a coaching program for every step of a company, of every stage of a company, and for every problem. It's quite simple stuff, but the most important thing is that people are aware that certain problems can happen, and then have the right, let's say, medicine or the right tape to fix it.
Do you think there are specific points in a company's growth where it breaks the most? Is it from 10 to 20? Have you noticed some patterns?
Yeah. There are some break points. Like if you're switching devices, it's really a break point between 7 people and 18 people, because the 7 people are still very sticked together by a team spirit, and they're doing a lot together, and it's still easy to communicate. But with 18 people, you are kind of building up a structure. So divisions. There are divisions. There's the marketing, the product, the IT department, and maybe they are even fighting against each other. So they say, oh, the marketing guys, they are so, I don't know. The product guys are slow in the IT. They just don't bug fix a lot, and so they are really fighting together. And this is a typical problem that comes from the step 7 to 18. So if you don't find a fix for the topics of communication, for the topics of HR, and for the topics of strategy, when you are 18 people, then it's getting harder and harder to solve those problems later on.
That's great. I love that tips. That's a good way to end it. We're gonna wrap it up today. We're getting so loud out here, so it's gonna be the end of ITB. But I really appreciate you coming in at the end of the day to chat with me.
Thanks for having me.
And this has been the last clip. But if you're watching on YouTube, again, keep watching. We thank you very much to Travelaer, and this has been Nick Vivian from tnoooz at ITB 2018.